Another Indigenous person is calling out the Guyanese government on the world stage. This time, it's Don Stoll, Policy Officer at the Amerindian Peoples Association APA. During a presentation at the 24th session of the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues, Stoll told the forum that there are persistent gaps between policy and practice in addressing the realities of Indigenous peoples, particularly women.
The increase in representation does not reflect meaningful inclusion in local governance, where our voices are still too often sidelined.
Her bold statement comes just days after Minister of Amerindian Affairs Pauline Sukai told global leaders that the state has reaffirmed its unwavering commitment to empowering Indigenous women, highlighting political inclusion, education, and economic advancement.
30 years ago, when I entered Parliament, there were few Indigenous women parliamentarians. Today, 39% of women in Parliament are Indigenous. 3 Indigenous women have led the Ministry of Amerindian Affairs.
But Stoll was quick to counter the state's glowing report. She stressed that despite state investments in healthcare infrastructure and telemedicine, Indigenous women still face enormous barriers, including language issues, weak infrastructure, and unanswered questions when they seek healthcare information.
Our hospitals still lack the basic equipment and medicines to treat our families and community.
Meanwhile, Minister Sukai told the forum that nationally funded programs are specifically aimed at empowering Indigenous women economically. She highlighted support for ventures in agriculture, ecotourism, and traditional industries, along with youth initiatives, claiming that 63% of participants in the Youth Entrepreneur and Apprenticeship programs are Indigenous women.
The government has advanced equitable access to health care and education nationwide. New and upgraded healthcare infrastructure and telemedicine services are expanding across the Amerindian villages. These improvements prioritize Indigenous women's health care, coupled with financial aid for universal health and cancer screening.
Still, Stoll argued that even with tuition-free university and vocational opportunities, Indigenous youth and women continue to face structural discrimination rooted in their culture and way of life.
Recent textbook produced by the Government of Guyana has negatively portrayed and targeted the Indigenous community of Chinese Landing, which has already faced retaliatory measures from the state for asserting their land rights against an illegal miner.
She urged the Government of Guyana to fully implement the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, UNDRIP, especially the principles of free, prior, and informed consent. Stoll criticized the state's selective use of the declaration, saying while it was adopted, the government often downplays its binding nature and limits its implementation. Tiana Cole reporting for the HGP Night 3 News.